And we're live. What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny. Episode what's live with Kenny? I guess that's what it's live with Kenny today. So, I just want to get into the topic really, and I'm changing little things with my format. I listened to your guys on the polls, and you guys say you guys want me to focus more on conceptual concept ideas, and I think that's also the direction that I kind of want to go as well. I guess I use you guys as a way of confirming that instinct that I had about my channel. So I would try not to focus too much on news if it's not relevant to a concept that I'm trying to, I guess, portray out there. But hey, I digress. So the name of this podcast, stream, live, whatever, is going to be about the mainstream media, right? And if you're familiar with my channel, hey, Jonathan Fields, long time no see. Hope you're doing well. The name of this channel, not the name of the channel. The way I'm going with this is that if you're familiar with my channel, if you've been following the channel for a long time, you'll know that I love to reference this quote by Malcolm X: "The media is the most powerful entity on earth," right? And the reason why the media is the most powerful entity on earth is that it essentially controls perception, right? And I have some notes here, and as you guys know, I do these these streams unscripted, so everything's off the top of my head, right? But I kind of want to outline some points that I want to make known in this stream. One point that I noted was that the mainstream media, they're not fighting for censoring people over misinformation, because as we go into this live stream, you will notice that the mainstream media is just as culpable with misinformation as much as someone like me, right? And the battle that the mainstream media really care about is not the battle of informing the people. It's a battle about perception, framing, controlling the conversation, right? And they want to control what people are exposed to, what information that people are aware of. And you're going to see this week was not a good week for mainstream media. This is just my view, and you'll see it too. As you guys also know, that I'm also going to give my GOP debate recap, because a lot of the reason why I started thinking about the mainstream media and how they kind of expose themselves as propagandists is how they treating Vivek and how they react to Vivek. Because Vivek is, in my view, this is why he's my ideal candidate. This is why he's my number one choice, right? If realistically he could win against Trump right now. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't know. I think if someone was going to come from behind and get a nomination, I believe it's Vivek. But I digress. So I already made my arguments about this. I'm trying to move this along so we can get into what you guys really came for. Because at the end of this live stream, Vivek did a podcast with PBD where he kind of reacted to all the stuff that happened, and he gave his reaction to some of the polls that came out, having him last. We'll get more into that, but let's focus on the topic of the stream. Media bias. I reference this a lot. Some people think I talk out of my butt for some reason, but I don't know. I just think this is just ways of people trying to spare their feelings over the facts. Media bias, pretty much all of journalism now leans left, study shows, right? And this has been something I've been saying for a long ass time, right? And black people, I just did a video about the inconvenient truths about the black vote. And I made the argument in the statement that the black vote is relatively based on ignorance. And then a lot of black people got offended, or will be offended if they ever see that video, is because your whole institution is pretty much most of the information that black people are exposed to is controlled by one side of the aisle, right? Pretty much all of journalism now leans left. And this study was made in 2018, when it was less obvious. Actually, by then, Donald Trump already labeled them fake news. So you think that's truer in 2018 or truer today? A lot of people will say it's truer today, especially with we got the manifesto thing that popped up this week, pretty much confirmed that this is based in reality. And if you don't believe this, you smoking something. That's just my view, right? Because in a day, this is my conclusions. You guys can come to your own, but I show you why I have the thoughts that I have in my head, right? Let's go into the article a little bit. If you ask any journalist, they're likely to tell you that they play things right down the middle, right? And this is my argument for what's the difference between, say, a regular person and a journalist. Some say, oh, well, they went to school for journalism. Oh, they were trained and taught to be a journalist. That's what makes a journalist and a regular person a regular person. But that's, to me, that's like an appeal to authority, right? So your credentials make you a journalist, or is it your ability to do a certain thing that makes you a journalist? And I'm trying to argue the functionality of something, right? Because you got a lot of civilian journalists, the Tim Pools of the world, the James O'Keefes of the world, that probably, I mean, they might have went to journalism school, not Tim though. And many people, especially in my generation as a millennial, Tim Pool has as much credibility as any of these mainstream hacks that we see on NBC, Fox News, CNN. Because what's the difference? You're giving us your opinion based on whatever information you're basing it on. The only difference is you got a highly productized, oh, I have $10,000 cameras on me, and you getting snooty off of that, right? And based on that, because you spend more money doing your production, you have a claim to, oh, we must inform the people. This is why YouTube changed the algorithm to favor legacy media, because they believe they're more legitimate than someone like me who's just giving his thoughts and referencing information the same way a journalist references information. And I wrote here on my notes is that what's the difference? What's the difference between a civilian journalist and a mainstream journalist? That's a question I want you to ask yourself as we go through this video. Excuse me. They strive to be fair. They're centrist. Sorry, not true. The profound leftward ideological bias of the big media is the main reason why Americans now are saturated with fake news journalists, beset with their own ideology, which is inherent in all human nature, right? And this is what informs my belief that no human being can truly be objective, right? If I don't expect myself to be objective, I could be as objective as I can, and the best way I could portray that sentiment is I show you where I get the information from, or I tell you where I'm basing my conclusions on. That's the best I can do. I leave up the idea of convincing something to you, because at the end of the day, you're the only one who has control over your own mind. I don't have control over people's minds. Only you have control over your own, and only you can really convince yourself of an idea. The only job I have is to present the best case for why I believe a certain conclusion. That's the bar that I set for myself. I'm not trying to sit here try to persuade people. My argument is prove my conclusions wrong. Show me that it's faulty. Show me how it's faulty. So then I can reassess. So I can self-reflect. That's all I'm really doing these videos for, right? So if I say the media is biased, hey, you have left-wing information, the black vote is based on ignorance, and I show you case by case how I came to that conclusion, how are you going to sit here and tell me I'm lying? How can you say I'm ignorant when I can break down and articulate all the details that led me to this conclusion? Most people can't do that. I already tell you the stats. Literally, if you want to be smarter than most people, all you have to do is read 3 books on a single subject, and you'll be smarter than you'll know more about that topic than 99% of people. There you go. That's the secret. That's the secret. There you go. But the reality is, understanding politics, spending time researching politics is not beneficial for a majority of people in America. And that's the inconvenient truth. It's called rational ignorance. The time you spent researching politics and all this stuff, that's time that's better spent learning information that can get you a skill that can get you a higher degree of income. That's the reality most Americans face, and actually most people face. Most people are worried about survival. Majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have time to sit here and fiddle and learn about the difference between socialism and capitalism, read the Capitalist Manifesto, the Communist Manifesto. That's a waste of their time. If they were to spend 4 hours, they'd rather spend 4 hours learning something that could actually make a direct impact on things that's affecting them. And usually that's what? The economy. I'm just being real here. Right? And the mainstream media know this too. So they take advantage of this, and this is how they're able to put their bias into their information and give themselves a false sense of credibility that I believe most Americans should now challenge, right? Just like some people will be skeptical of me and my information, I think we should view all media personalities, all media the same way. That's all I'm saying. Let's treat everyone the same. All right, I digress. They can no longer recognize their own bias. Despite journalists' denial, it's pretty much a fact that journalism is one of the most left-wing of all professions. And this breeds into a lot of why certain stories don't get certain attention more than others. Whatever story that proves the left-wing narrative, the mainstream media is right on it, right? Black on black crime, oh, that don't prove our narrative, we won't cover it. Black on white crime, oh, no, we won't follow it. Even though it's 85% of interracial crime, no, we're not going to cover it. We're only going to cover the exception that proves our point or proves our narrative. That, oh, look, this white man attacked this black kid, and it's all over social media. It's all over mainstream media. That's what they hyper-focus on because they're left-wing agents. Remember, not me, look, investors.com, they say this. Journalism is the most left-wing profession of them all. Wow. But until recently, it wasn't thought to be true of financial journalists who have a reputation of being the most right-wing and free market-oriented amongst mainstream journalists. All right, so if you're looking for financial information, there you go. If that was ever true, it sure isn't today. A new study suggests researchers from Arizona State and Texas A&M University questioned 42% of financial journalists around the country. They follow up with 18 additional interviews. The journalists work for the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press, and a number of other news outlets. You already know it's left-wing bias. They found surprising that even the surprisingly hard-nosed financial reporters were overwhelmingly liberal. Out of the 462 people surveyed, only 17% of them call themselves very liberal, while 40% describe themselves as somewhat liberal. So they either lean left or are left, right? Media's conservatives, endangered. So to be a media talking head, as a conservative, you're considered an endangered species. Imagine that. Imagine our shock. But you can trust us. We give you real information. Fact check. So all these fact checkers, you can safely assume, left-wing bias. They're fact checking from a left-wing bias. This is why a lot of the fact checks, when the fact checkers get fact checked, this is why everyone laughs at fact checks. Only Democrats or left-wing people give fact-check any credibility because it's a way of checking for a purity test. That's what a fact-check is, all of a sudden. When you add it up, 58% admit to being left of the center. Along with that, another 37% claim to be moderate. What about the mythical conservative financial journalist, right? And this is journalism as a whole. It's not just financial journalists. In fact, a mere 0.46%. A fourth of a percent, pretty much. Not a fourth, but 40% of 1% of financial journalists call themselves very conservative, while only 3% should say they're somewhat conservative. That's a whopping 4.4% of total left leaning to right center, right? The ratio is 13 for every one conservative. The same ratio you'll find in college professors, like in the college profession in academia, is very left-wing. But these people will still sit in your face and try to say that they give you real news. This is why I'm saying the battle for credibility or protecting people from misinformation is not about that. That's the excuse they're giving you to justify censoring voices like mine. Because end of the day, the left got good at taking over institutions and then use those institutions as gatekeepers. And this is how I see the college degree. I see the college degree as a form of credentialism, aka, hey, you need a stamp of approval from an approved institution so that way you're allowed to do the work that you want to do. So if I want to be a journalist, I have to go through journalism school. That's majority of the professors is going to be left wing. The profession itself is majority left wing. It's not catered to someone like me to challenge the establishment. That's the establishment. You seen the theme here? It's an establishment. So the left wing has the establishment. So if you call yourself anti-establishment, you're essentially saying you're anti the left wing view of things. And even if you try to be, you don't recognize your own bias, you might say, I'm being objective here. I'm calling it down the middle. Are you really calling it down the middle? Because if I were to ask you to do a report that challenges your ideological slant on an idea, how I know you ain't gonna cut corners and searching the opposite, the opposing viewpoint on the issue that you agree with. Bias play a big part in that. You may not be overtly biased, but inside you'll be like, no, because a lot of people, there's a reason why on these social media apps, a lot of people are in echo chambers. A lot of people don't like to be exposed to ideas they don't like. It's not a very nice thing to feel. But this is why I believe in this sentiment that you don't pray for an easy life. You pray for the strength to endure a hard one. And I think we have become a very fragile culture. And I think it's now time to push a message of anti-fragile. This is why I take the positions that I take. This is why I talk about these ideas, these concepts, this cultural, the cultural norms, the cultural traditions, and I challenge them directly. I don't hold any bars. I'm like, yo, no, black people, you vote, you're an ignorant voting bloc that's being taken advantage of by this party. Show me otherwise. You can't. 90% of a group voting for one party. So you believe this party has all the answers. Look at all the conditions that's affecting your people. Look at education. What, in my view, which is the biggest long-term factor in determining whether a group will progress from where it left. Democrats are a big proponent of public school, the worst possible option for black people to receive an education. And what's their solution for it? Throw more money at it. How's that help? How's that working out for you, black people? But instead of taking the uncomfortable step of doing something about it, aka stepping outside of your comfort zone and voting Republican, you want to chastise me and call me a coon, Uncle Tom, sellout, right-wing grifter, when you can't even disprove this right-wing grifter's talking point. My talking point is you've been voting Democrat for 50 straight years. Nothing has changed. The Democrat Party is not incentivized to change, but you're still going to vote for them anyway. This is why I call the black vote the emotional vote, the low information vote. Because end of the day, like, I'm being real here. Most black people are not interested in politics like me. If I start talking about politics, people are only going to parrot what they heard on the mainstream channels, aka what the biased media shows them. Remember, how can you say you get good information when 13 for every one journalist, it's a 13-to-1 ratio that they're a liberal? But you're not being fed bad information. You're not being fed filtered information, black people. That's what I'm saying. That this is kind of playing into the part of why a lot of people who are not politically informed, politically engaged, low information voters, this is my argument for a long time. Liberal media, Democrats rely on the ignorant vote. If you look at the percentages, if I make a bet, if you made a bet with me about which party gets more of the low information voters, my bet was going to be on the Democratic Party every time, because they got the young vote, the black vote, the minority vote, right? First time voters always vote what? Democrat. Now, that's not a blanket statement that like, oh, all low information voters are young. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that there's a lot of things in place where if someone has low information, they don't have the correct information to properly vet the information that they're receiving from the mainstream media, which is 13-to-1 ratio slanted towards the liberal, they're more likely to gain a liberal perspective on most issues and most things. Boom. This is how the media is propaganda. Because if it wasn't propaganda, you'll have shows where there's differences of opinions, equal representations for both sides of the aisle. There's not that. If you look at CNN, they only bring in Republicans or conservatives that are anti-Trump. They never bring a mega conservative there or American First candidate there. Vivek, because they have to, because he's being popular, he's making rounds. And this is kind of tying into the whole GOP thing. And I think I've been staying on this point for too long. So I'm not going to say too much on this story. I'm just going to give it an example of how civilian journalism gave the people more truth than the mainstream media, and it's going to confirm some of the conclusions that I have about mainstream media. The Nashville shooter, as we know for months, conservatives been demanding for the manifesto, and the manifesto finally got leaked due to journalists, investigators that worked with Steven Crowder, a podcaster, someone who talks on the internet like I do, hired somebody, and they were able to get information that the mainstream media, who went to school for this, who got a fancy degree for this, they couldn't do it. Why? Right? Why isn't, we call it right down the middle. Why didn't they ask questions like we're asking questions? Because they have an agenda. This is propaganda. This is not about informing people. It's about controlling perception. The media is the most dangerous entity on earth. This is why. It took Steven Crowder probably didn't go to school for this. It took him to expose the manifesto of the Covington kids because it didn't prove a left-wing bias. Who's left-wing bias? The majority of journalism. So what, like, and then when people say, and then the mainstream media will get mad when they find out that people trust Donald Trump more than they trust them. People will get mad about that. Oh. So this leads me into my next video. This is a video. What
These protesters are yelling at reporter Tim
Give me a sec.
Pool.
I'm not going to let them bully me.
I don't know what happened. I don't know. Maybe YouTube got mad and mentioned the transgender manifesto, even though I didn't go into it too much. But I digress. It looks like we're back. So as I was saying, the rise of citizen journalism. This was a video made 4 years ago. And I call myself sometimes a YouTube historian because I go back on YouTube and I say, okay, who are the people that were predicting what we're dealing with right now? Tim Pool is a perfect example of this. 4-minute video. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this, but I'm pretty good on time right now. So let's take our time with this and let's talk about civilian journalism. And here's a question I asked for you. Maybe you could talk about it in the chat or in the comment section. Is this the future of journalism? Because we can't trust mainstream media. To us, they bought and paid for it. The corporate media press is dead at this point. Like, you don't trust anything they say, especially when we go into the Vivek videos, how they push misinformation, how they don't even fact check the people when they make statements about another person. Only when it's against their bias. When liberal media talking heads get challenged on a candidate they like, that's when they want to fact check. That's when they want to get clarification. But when it's something they don't like, they feel neutral about, or they feel strongly against, they don't challenge the person. Jen Psaki is a perfect example of that. She went from the White House press secretary. She got a gig at NBC, I believe. And when they're talking about, Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that, no fact check from her. But we're supposed to give her credibility. We're supposed to assume that she called it right down the middle, right? This is what I'm saying, bro. It's like, it's the rise of skeptical American. I think what we need right now is a culture of skepticism of our institutions right now. I'm not saying, I am saying that we should reform them, but we have to evaluate them like, hey, are they acting in our interest, or are they acting on their own interest aligned with the corporations or the government? Because that's something we have to take into account. This is an inconvenient truth for the mainstream media. They cannot deny this. They cannot deny their bias is playing a part into all this. But I digress. Let's get into the video.
Out of reporting on what they're doing.
Pool's part of what some call the new media, reporters who work for themselves and often cover things the mainstream media miss.
The news you're getting comes straight from me and straight from the source on the ground.
That brings them viewers.
4 years ago, this was happening. So the cycle repeats itself. But I digress. Let's get back in it.
More than 1 million people subscribe to Pool's online channel. Here he's videotaping Antifa protesters who try to stop him.
Tim Pool is getting blocked yet again.
The Antifa de-escalation team, they actually called it, said don't touch him. And so they actually made sure people didn't touch me, which is good.
Antifa has a de-escalation team?
Yeah, they have people who try and make sure nobody, no one from their side starts it because the cameras are rolling.
You call yourself a person of the left, and you worked at Vice.
Yeah.
But now you're mostly criticizing the left.
This really strange faction of people on the left that are saying ridiculous things that make no sense. They're hurting the left, and they're helping Donald Trump.
Trump gets voters who watch.
So that was 4 years ago. Base take. Because I think the reality is we need people that live in reality. We need journalists that has a model like this. Ask a question that I can't answer, not an answer I can't question. Right? That's the difference between propaganda and facts. Facts can handle criticism. Facts can handle when you criticize it. But propaganda can't. Propaganda can't take criticism. Propaganda can't take you questioning it because it has nothing to stand on but imagination. And as you know in this channel, I don't suffer from imagination. People should not suffer from imagination. People only suffer from reality. And the reality is we're suffering from how you say it, a corporate stamped, a corporate validated misinformation. Oh, we're supposed to view the world this way because we said so, because it helps our agenda, because it helps the message that we're trying to push on the American people. You must believe this. But that's misinformation. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's misinformation that we approve of. And you're gonna see a lot of it. But I digress. Let's get back into it.
Those protests.
Yep. Do look at this protest in Portland. A Bernie Sanders supporter showed up with an American flag to protest against the fascists. And so what did Antifa do? Cracked him over the head with a club, put him in the hospital with a concussion.
Pool One fans with his coverage of the Covington school conflict.
All of these big news outlets, even the Washington Post, CNN, they immediately made the assumption he must be a racist sneering at this Native.
So imagine that. The mainstream media make assumptions about things. They get it wrong. They get sued for it for millions of dollars. But they still expect people to like have trust in them. I don't understand that. That's not something that I roll with. If you have a friend, he betrays you, you don't trust them anymore. It's the same thing with mainstream media. Like they say, trust is hard to earn, but it's easy to lose. This is why. Trust is like broken glass. Once you break it, it's never going to be the same again. This is how Americans should treat mainstream media. We should look at mainstream media sideways. Every time they say something, we better look at them like this. We gotta look at them like this. This is my skeptical look. You gotta look at them like this. Like, really? Is that really true? What's your evidence for that? Where you get that source from? Oh, your source is trust me, bro? Oh, your source is anonymous? Oh, no, I don't trust it. This is the game they're playing now. This is why content creators are better at giving the news, giving information, because people can trust us more. They're going to be like, yo, I know Tim's pool bias already. I'm going to listen to news of Tim because I like how Tim breaks it down. And then if I feel like I'm not getting the full story, I go watch someone else. Decentralization of information control. That is what I'm pushing for. This is why I'm big fan of citizen journalists. Because with mainstream media, they're trying to centralize power, which to me is somewhat a path to socialism. But you know that I'm done beating that drum. But I'm very skeptical of people who want to centralize authority, power, right, in one industry. It's a monopoly, regardless if it's government controlled or capitalist controlled. For some reason, progressives only hate monopolies when it's in capitalism, but they love monopolies when it's based on socialism, because all these people want is control. At least when a capitalist gets a monopoly, he earned it because a lot of people like his products and services. And the other hand, with the government, it's because they ordained themselves to be a monopoly. All you gotta do is look at the Department of Education. But no one sees it. I don't understand why. The government is an unearned monopoly. They didn't earn them. They didn't earn monopoly status. They just made themselves a monopoly, and they say you must go to school here. This is why 76% of our kids go to public school. This is what they want to do with mainstream media. They want to get majority of Americans getting their information from mainstream media and not people like us. This is why they asked YouTube to change the algorithm so that way more of legacy media, more attention is funneled to legacy media more than alternative people who provide information like me, Tim Pool, Black Conservative Perspective. This is why. Because they want centralized power. They want to create an information monopoly. And we heard that. I digress. Let's continue with the video.
American man. I didn't make that assumption. I just see a guy banging a drum and a kid with a weird look on his face. So I looked at some other videos.
And posted his own video explanation.
The initial narrative that we heard from the activists was that this kid got in this man's face. You have just seen right now, it's actually the other way around.
No one else watched the video.
How could that be? No one watched the longer video?
Nope. Here's what happens. One left-wing journalist says, look at this racist. His buddy sees it and says, wow, look at this racist. And then it's a big old circular game of telephone where no one actually does any fact-checking. And then
And this is why the bias is dangerous. This is why left-wing bias in journalism is dangerous. And actually bias in any field is dangerous, right? You want to strive for parity, or at least create an environment where the contrarian view has as much exposure as the narrative. But that's not what's happening in mainstream media. This is why I'm saying mainstream media is propaganda. Propaganda wants centralized control over information. This is why the government is trying to control the internet. It's a battle to monopolize information. And we already know, earlier in the video, if you missed it, I already pointed out most of the journalism is the most left-wing profession, the most left-wing career in America. Those are the facts. This is not what I think. This is not an assumption I'm making. I researched it. I show you the proof already. All you got to do is go earlier in the stream. I might even click this up. The mainstream media is biased. And this is why most of the mainstream media got it wrong unless you were conservative, which is an endangered species in journalism. So that means my view is something that most people are not exposed to. Most people don't even understand. But here we are. Oh, we're well informed. Oh, I read the news. Oh, that's fake news. How you know it's fake news? Based on what? Oh, some talking head with some talking head on an productivized studio told you so. Oh, you trust him or you trust me? Okay, but can you disprove these facts though? This evidence though. If this is true, wouldn't that justify my conclusion? Yes or no? That's all I care about. I care about the function, not the appearances of things. And I think mainstream media caused this. Mainstream media caused us to look at the appearances of things instead of looking at the functions. Hey, how I know this is not an assumption that I'm bringing into the situation? How can I validate that this is really what it is? Empiricism. You have to test your theories. If the reality shows you your theory is wrong, you must accept your theory is wrong. Left don't like that here. Left don't like to hear that message. Left don't like to hear that the most trusted sources of news is mostly left-wing bias BS, which is akin to an echo chamber. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, hey, no, this is credible information. It might be. You show me the source of that. Okay. If I can demonstrate that, if it's repeatable, yes, that is true. Men are generally stronger than women. Okay, is that a repeatable fact? Can I reproduce this assumption, this conclusion? Yes, I can. Okay, it must be true. We need to get back to asking these journalists to show their work, aka how you got that source, where you get this information for, how you came to this conclusion, how did the polls show this result, why? Now, look, bro, you only have power over your own mind, and these people are trying to wrestle that from you. Oh, just trust us. No, I think the day of middlemen is dying, and that's what the mainstream media is. It's a middleman to the information. Oh, we're gonna filter the information, and here you go. We'll tell you to come to what conclusion you're supposed to come to, instead of here's the information. Here's what I think. What do you think? Do you agree with me, or you have another take on this? Go ahead. This is why the comment section exists, and this is why mainstream media is losing. This is why they have to go to YouTube. YouTube, change your algorithm. You're giving too much attention to unauthentic, unauthoritative. I don't know how to say it. Unauthoritative sources. You're supposed to filter it. You're supposed to filter it to us. We're legacy media. We're authoritative sources. We're supposed to get more attention about these topics. Watch, you're gonna see it. It's already happening. I already did a podcast episode on that already. How they're changing the rules to make you automatically jump to mainstream media, legacy media, because on the merits, meritocracy. That's what I'm about. Meritocracy. May the best win. They know they lose to people like Tim Pool. And there's an example of this. This is why civilian journalism is winning. People are like, yo, civilian journalism are kicking you journalists' butt. And where y'all go to? Run to the old guard. Tell hey, we got to protect our authority. We got to protect our credibility. And they just hurt it even more. I digress.
New York Times, Washington Post, CNN all publish the same fake story.
Poole and Reason's Robbie Suave told the true story.
That's a complete misreading of the situation. That's exactly backward.
Poole doesn't have a college degree or even a high school degree. I like it that you're a high school dropout.
Yeah, me too.
Instead of going to college and taking on debt, Poole just started videotaping what interested him.
I went to Occupy Wall Street.
The march has begun. We are now at 13th Street and Broadway. For those just tuning in,
the whole damn system is guilty as hell.
He covered the riots in Ferguson, Missouri.
You know what destroyed Occupy Wall Street? Identity politics. Yo, when I tell you identity politics is merely is a concept merely to divide people. That's it. That's all. That's the whole purpose of identity politics. It's not to tell you the reality or the truth about things, not to make you awake. No, it's to divide you, to see someone else as an other. When technically, functionally, you have a common enemy. It's crazy. It's crazy, right? But I kind of wanted to speak to the fact that school. I told you, school is also a very left-wing institution, heavily biased. Same ratio, 13-1. For every one conservative professor in college, there's 13 liberals to replace him, essentially. So then you go into school, you go into these institutions. This is why conservatives don't respect college education, don't respect education as an institution anymore. Why conservatives want to homeschool their kids or go to private school where they have a variety of educational approaches so they can train up their kids in a way that they believe, because the values in the public school system, aka Department of Education, is heavily based on democratic values, left-wing biases, and they infuse those values into your kids. That's why I said the current purpose of education in America today, as long as the Department of Education exists, is to transmit values to your kids. Not in education, not to inform them, but to instill values in them that will make them more, slanted towards Democrats, towards liberals, towards progressives. This is why most young people tend to be progressive. Not because, we're idealistic and naive. No, it's because this is what the education has been thrusting in front of them, to the point that something liberalism is self-evident. It's not. And that's the reality. So this is why a lot of people who are breaking ground, who are doing all these innovative things, are college dropouts or didn't go to college, because they didn't get, I wouldn't say brainwashed, but they didn't get their perception or their views massaged or conditioned by a certain path. Oh, you must go this path. You never notice that? People who go against the grain, they tend to get made fun of, ostracized in common society until they make it. This is why educated people, the worst thing you could tell an educated person is you making more money than them and you're a high school dropout, you're a college dropout. They hate to hear that. I got a master's degree in this and I only make $50K a year. Well, I didn't go to school. I just went to a coding boot camp and I make six figures. They hate hearing that because they feel entitled to that money. Oh, I should make six figures. You should be making 50K because I got an education, but I'm better at the job than you. Objectively, you went to school to learn those skills. I taught myself to learn these skills. What's the difference? If I do the job better than you, what the company's going to care about? At the end of the day, they're going to care about, hey, can this person get the job done in an efficient and an effective manner? And that's how I look at journalism. This is why I asked the question in the beginning of the stream. What's the difference between a civilian journalist and a mainstream journalist? The mainstream journalist has a perceived credibility because they went to school for it. Ooh, that's biased as hell, right? That condition their thinking. They only know how to think about things one way, which stifles innovation. College and our school system put too much weight on memorization, so these people are only good at regurgitating things, not actually problem solving and thinking about things. This is why you got people like Tim Pool who said he would rather take not a college dropout. He'd rather take a kid that never went to college versus a kid that went to college, because going to college now is seen as a mark of an idiot. Sorry, not sorry. Unless you went for a STEM field. That's the only exception. For most cases, you're looked upon like an idiot because you're like, yo, you got no job skills. You went six figures into debt. The average college debt is $30K a year. Now you're going to come to the employer hoping the employer feels sorry for you and give you a high income because you need to pay your college debt. Like, no, it's a two-way street. Hey, you're only worth this much, but that's not enough to pay my college debt and have a nice house and be able to afford a new iPhone every year. Well, that's the path you chose. Like, take it or leave it. And they get bitter about this, and then they want socialism. But the very same people who control those institutions didn't give you good information to be successful in the first place. But you want to blame everything else. You want to blame capitalism. I digress. I digress.
Sure.
And that's the first time I've been fired at.
You're an action junkie.
You know, it's not so much the action, but Kind of, you know, definitely an adrenaline junkie. I've been skateboarding my whole life. But it was more so, I want to know why things are happening. Some people don't trust the media. I don't know who to believe. Why don't I just go there? I can see for myself. And then it turns out there's one good way to fund that. Tell people what you saw.
He funds his videos with advertising and contributions from viewers. His most popular YouTube video was when he went to Sweden to look at so-called no-go zones. Trump had said there are areas where you can't go.
No-go zones.
Your videos said what?
That it was Nuance.
You got lots of views with Nuance?
Yeah.
Pool interviewed lots of people.
And they were looting the stores here.
And won viewers by concluding,
They certainly have their problems. But, you know, one side will have you believe it's the end of the world, and the other will have you believe nothing's happening at all.
Pool is now a zealot for free speech.
When I was growing up, it was the religious conservatives that had the moral panic about music and swear words. But today, the moral panic is coming from the left. What happened?
Because end of the day, like, it's a book I've been reading. It's called The Americans, like how the radical left revolutionized American education. And one of the things that a lot of like left-wing thought leaders have always said is that they always invert things. Tolerance is not tolerance, and not tolerance is tolerance, right? So they say, oh, if we allow bad people to speak, aka free speech, then you're essentially allowing an opportunity for people to subvert what you believe. And if bad ideas win, isn't censorship a way of preventing that to happen? So they'll try to rationalize their ideas that, and all it really is to me is a mask to hide, to stop the contrarian view. Because at the end of the day, for a society to really know, for the society to have a thinking, like for people to think properly about issues and ideas, the contrarian voice must always be able to express itself, right? They say if a man is not able to express himself peacefully, he will violently, right? Because at the end of the day, it's human nature, right? If you tell me I can't speak, I'm gonna get frustrated, and then the frustration is gonna hit a breaking point, and I might do things that's normally outside of my character. That's the reality for all human beings. We all got a dark side. That's one thing I realized. Carl Jung, right? That's what Jordan Peterson likes to reference, and it's true. We all have a breaking point. We all have a point where we go F it. And if enough people say F it, hey, you get the American Revolution against Britain. That's an example.
The left at Berkeley holding up signs saying free speech today, the left shows up with torches and burns free speech signs. That's not the left. And so, you know,
it is the left.
But
not the old left.
They want everyone to believe that someone like me, who is a supporter of Bernie Sanders, is a conservative. That way, actual conservatives look insane.
Pool's one of many new media people who are...
And this is the argument for, oh, you're trying to change the Overton window, right? That's what conservatives always like to launch at liberals. And it's kind of true, right? Liberals believe you only have one right, to be a liberal. That's it. You can't be anything else. You can't be an alternative viewpoint. If you're anything else but a liberal, they look at you as less than, dumb, intellectually stupid. You get me? They look down on you. This is why I say that. That's why I had this argument about the condescending liberal, right? Because they have so much up their butt, they don't even know rain from piss. I don't know, but I digress. So that was my whole monologue. Now we're gonna go into the GOP debate. The GOP debate was that was a fun one. I was watching it, thinking, you know, I was looking into how Vivek was gonna do, and this man he brung it. This man brung it. So
they wouldn't do it.
Oh,
and
here
so
you go.
The fact of the matter is, I mean, Christian, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go. Mr. Roberts, this is how we get the country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story. And they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie. Why you?
No one cared. Like at that point, and this is a funny part too. No one cared at that point what anyone else had to say. This is what I don't like. They're interrupting. Yo, you don't see the man on fire right now, bro? That man cooking. Hey, hold up. He cooking. Let him cook.
Let's not do this.
Let's not do it. And this is what I hate. Like, he made another good point. I got the next clip for you guys. Why Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, or Elon Musk not doing these debates? Why we're hiring these left-wing hacks? Because I already told you, Most of journalism's already left-wing. We don't need more left-wing people sitting in the chair questioning conservatives from a left-wing perspective. I think conservatives have dealt enough with that. Right? All the questions about other people, not America. Like, this is American last. This is the problem I have. Yo, we got to worry about our own. I have to worry about my own household before I go worry about someone else's household, how someone else is running it. Because the first thing that person going to say is, how are you going to tell me what to do in my house when your house is out of order?
Let's not do this. Let's let the candidates speak. Governor Christie, why you and not former president?
Yeah, so here's the next clip I have prepared. And this was when he called out what was his name? Ronna McDaniel. I always say her name wrong. Forgive me. I always say her name wrong, right? And I think it was, this one's the fun one that everyone loves to hear. But I want to go back to this one.
Deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think
it's the same argument that I always will tell the conservatives, the same way I always tell black people. If you do the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, that's insanity, right? That's Albert Einstein, right? So this woman oversaw what sounds like 3 elections, 2018, 2020, 2022, and then this one, the special elections of 2023. And it seems she don't know how to deploy the funds correctly. Now, this is kind of something outside of the grassroots, everyday voters' hands. This is what this is the donor class that picked this woman. And this is the problem, right? This is the bureaucracy that Vivek speaks out against, and I kind of speak out against too, is that this idea that a certain class of people know what's best for you, and they think they know more about your situation, what's best for you, more than you know about what's best for you. And that's an oxymoron. You ever heard of the wisdom of the crowd? This is it. And expressing that now gets you labeled self-destructive. You're going to see. Let's continue, though. I want to hear the whole thing.
We have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will turn over.
And you know what? Sorry, I keep cutting up, but this is a viral clip. Everyone should have seen this already. You know what always I find funny? When these pro-DeSantis people always come out and say, oh, Trump can't win, but they still support Ronna McDaniel. Why? If the donor class say, hey, we need another option, why are you still, but you're picking the same lady that oversaw a bunch of failed elections, who didn't deploy the money right, she didn't campaign properly. Now that Vivek spoke out against her, she's threatening to take money away from him. More on that later on in the stream, but let's get into the video. Let's finish the clip.
I yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. Do you think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate?
Bro, this was like gold for me. I was like, oh my God, he's crushing it. If this is the only viral clip, he would have won. But hey, he had a lot more, as I'm going to show you. But this is my recap. I really liked how Vivek came off today. A couple during the debates. I think this was his best performance yet, even better than his first one, which I thought was pretty good. Right? He made a statement. He made it pretty much the night it was all about him. Now I don't want to get into too much because obviously I want to finish the video, but I wanted to show you how mainstream media framed this whole event. You heard the applause. You see me. You look at all the talking heads, all the civilian journalists. That's how I'm going to categorize us, right? The alternative media. Alternative media said Vivek won this debate. What do you think mainstream media said? Right? Let's finish him cooking. He cooking right now.
They wouldn't do it.
Chef Vivek with the curry.
And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up
disinformation? Go, right? This man, This man just destroyed. Like, and here's the final part, and then I'll get into what the mainstream media thought about this performance, right? So here's this is one of the, I think this is one of his most viral ones because everyone loved that line. Let's go.
Between you and the candidates we just heard on this issue, on what you would tell the Prime Minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the Prime Minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border. That's his responsibility. This is our responsibility. That's how we move forward. But I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt.
And this is the problem with this political class, right? This donor class. People must always understand that people are always going to act with some level of self-interest. And the argument I'm trying to make is that make sure that you gain some type of benefit from that same outcome as well. And for most people, they don't get no benefit for going to war. War hurts the common man. The peasants and the serfs died when a king waged a war against another kingdom. He was the least person likely to die in that war. The person most likely to die in that war is what? The common people. And this is why war is unpopular. No matter what political aisle you go on, war is unpopular because you ain't gonna pay the same level of cost as the individual at the bottom ring of the society. But they weren't the one that made the decision. You did, leadership class. And that's the problem. That there's a disconnect there. The conservative ideal is that the leadership class works for the common good of the society. This is why, like, I believe that conservatism cannot really be anything. How you say it? It can't. Conservatism can't really be forward thinking without being rooted in some type of ideology. And my thing is the best way to, for it to encompass most Americans, it has to be viewed in a nationalist perspective. And I believe Vivek articulates that perfectly, but I digress. I want to finish up this point, and then we'll go back into how mainstream media kind of warped this, how they framed this whole interaction and their response to this. Let's go.
Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country. The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN.
Get 'em.
Bankrupt or in debt was her family.
Got her.
Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
Ooh, boy. I love that line. That line was, cooked her. So, as you can tell, I really believe that Vivek, he killed it. He won the night. There's no way. But you know what mainstream media says? And this, now, look, I'm going to criticize the conservative media now, right? And because the end of the day goes both ways, right? For some reason, right, the establishment, right, this is the Washington Post, right? Alexander Hamilton founded this newspaper, and this is how they reacted to the Vivek debate. This was their verdict. They say Nikki Haley was impressive. She shined tonight. Before I even go to the second quote, how the hell did the 3-inch heel Dick Cheney shined? How she shined? To who? Who she's, bruh? If she like, let me take the Vivek fanboy hat off me. Okay, I took it off, guys. I don't know anything. I'm very objective here. Mainstream media says Haley shined tonight. Huh? But why when I go on social media, all I see is Vivek. I keep seeing an Indian dude. How, Sway? But Haley shined. The only time she shined was when she was getting roasted by the Vivek guy. But she shined tonight? She was impressive tonight? To me, it felt like she was fumbling. She felt like she was backing off on her feet. Like, Nikki looked like she wasn't even expecting to get any type of pushback, any type of criticism. She seemed surprised. Because for the first two debates, in my opinion, the men around her was kind of coddling her. Right? When she was making her little sexist joke about, oh, what men complain, but women gets the job done, when she was doing all that girl power, girl boss, feminist-ish. No one called her out on it, because if they call her out on it, oh, you're sexist, you're mean. You wanted equality? You want equal treatment? Here it is. You can't only want equal treatment when it's positive, when it's to your benefit. It must also be to your detriment as well, because that's what a right is. It's absolute in the positive and in the negative. So they called Vivek stupid. Last time I checked, Vivek graduated from Yale. I think Harvard too. So if someone like that is stupid, does that get any credibility to Yale and Harvard? In my view, no. So how are you going to call him stupid? There's a lot of words you can use, but you call Vivek stupid. Vivek's the least stupidest person on that stage. To me, it's flipped. How I would see this is Republican debate verdict according to Kenny. Vivek, impressive, shines. Haley, stupid, clumsy. That's how I would call it. Self-destruct. What you saw, right? This is what they call self-destruct. This is self-destruct according to the mainstream media, guys.
Information. Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ross.
Last time I checked, you don't smile like this off of self-destruction. You don't get cheers like that off of self-destruction. Did we see the same video? This is why mainstream media is propaganda. Now, you want to read some of the quotes? Let's go a little bit into the article, and then we'll go into Vivek's reaction to all this on the PBD podcast. He did a PBD podcast on today, and I want to kind of react to it because he's going to respond to a lot of the criticism and his reactions for some of the opinions that came out after the aftermath of the debate. But hey, let's get into this because there's some dumb ish right here. Vivek Ramaswamy was the biggest loser of Wednesday night. Wow. Big claim. The Post panel of political experts unanimously agree. See, this is where I'm saying this false sense of credibility. Political experts. Okay, so what? If a political expert can deny reality, like being an expert does not give you permission or the authority to rewrite reality, to reframe reality. The reality is Vivek shined. Look, it's undeniable. He's going viral. People are wanting to interview him. I haven't seen Haley go anywhere but the corporate controlled media space. He was way too hot and way too nasty. Oh, so when Nikki Haley was calling Vivek scum because he called her out on her hypocrisy about going on TikTok, but she's letting her 25, her adult age daughter on TikTok. But she criticizing Vivek. When he called her out on her hypocrisy, that was too nasty. Okay. Hurt himself big time. I doubt that. Now, and then when we get the poll results from this and Vivek's actually doing better, you think they're gonna admit they were wrong here? No. The night's biggest talking point was the moment when Vivek defended himself from criticism by Nikki Haley over his use of TikTok by pointing out that Haley's adult daughter also dabs in the alleged Chinese spy app. That drew an angry response from Haley, who told her rival to keep her daughters out of her voice before dismissing Ramaswamy as scum, which is not an argument. It's a fair criticism. And to me, that made her look bad. That made her look stupid. That made her look dumb. All the comebacks, bro. The only reason people are have this moment about the 3-inch heels and talk about how her heels hold ammunition was people was trying to understand what she was talking about. Vivek didn't have that problem. He said his joke, hey, you Dick Cheney with 3 hit shields, and in fact, we got 2 of them on the stage. Everyone got that. Understandable, boom. But he self-destructed tonight. Bro, if the mainstream media call that self-destruction, bro, I wonder what they call an annihilation. But I digress. So here's the final part. This is the main event of the stream, right? I'm gonna try to I got a cutoff point at 7:30, and I'm right on time, right? I'm trying to focus my formatting, guys. I hope you guys approve. Like the video if you do. I'll try to keep my videos kind of compact like that because I notice I can get onto tangents. So I'm trying to be more focused, more deliberate about how I express the information to you guys. I hope you guys like the change up that I'm trying to do. But we're in this last 30 minutes, and for the last 30 minutes, I want to react to Vivek's podcast appearance after the debate, where he gets to, this is some high level stuff, right? He gets to talk about the RNC chair, what was said, his recap on what the night was, how it started, how it began. I think it's going to be a very insightful talk, and I think a lot of people can gain a lot of benefit from it. But let's get into the video.
The man who uses TikTok and pisses other people off. He's not afraid of calling people out. He apparently calls someone a Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels, right? And she corrected him and said it's 5-inch heels, and I still don't know what the tweet's all about. We're going to talk about that.
I mean, I have no idea what the hell she's talking about.
I had no idea what she was talking about.
You
But
called out 2 people in heels.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was
that's accurate.
Yes, but it was constant calling out. It's great to have you back, man.
Good to be on, brother.
Yes. How you doing? How you
Good to
feeling?
be here. I'm feeling good.
Good.
I'm feeling pretty unconstrained. And
how was dinner with your family and Ronna McNabb last night?
It was well. She said she refused to pay the bill because she's not. I'm not going to get another cent from the RNC.
Yeah, I saw that.
So Vivek self-destructed, but look at the argument. Vivek says, "Hey, Republican Party is just as corrupt, but in a different way. They're corrupt as in they think they should control the means of the voting. They want to filter out the candidates." Vivek's argument is both parties are corrupt, but the Republican Party can still be saved, can still be reformed. Good people can still make an impact in the party. That's Vivek's argument. And you got this Ronald McDonald Daniel lady. How you say it? Not condemning Vivek, but being biased towards him, being hostile towards him when he's a member of their party. Now, you're going to hear a lot of him. Hey, I digress. Let's get into it. I'm not trying to ramble.
Can you believe
she say that? Can she say that?
I mean, not legally. I mean, if you think about your duty, it's not your money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not your money.
Exactly.
Right?
And but we think it is. For some reason, when Vivek mentioned that, I said, yeah, you're right. It's not her money. It's not her stage. Why did I think it was her stage? The mainstream media made you think that way. And this is what mainstream media is really fighting for. They're not fighting to inform you. They're fighting to control what you think up here. How you view things, how you see things, how you perceive things. The battle for information is not about getting bad information. It's about filtering information that challenges a worldview that they don't want you to have. That's the real case. That's the real argument. Right? But I digress. Let's get back into it.
And so, I don't know if you think people know what we're already
This is the
talking
story
about.
you're talking about right here,
Yeah,
right?
people already know what we're
He's
talking about.
He's an asshole,
yeah.
total asshole.
So just so people, if they didn't watch the debate the other night or whatever, I am a believer in accountability. Okay, so this woman is appointed chair of the RNC, Republican National Committee, in 2017. Let's just do the math. It's not that complicated. 2018, loss. 2020, loss. 2022, no red wave. 2023, bad trouncing.
That's an understatement.
So insanity is expecting a different conclusion unless you're going to make a change. This
I
is
just
the
said
person
that.
who's running the Republican National Committee. So that had happened the night before the debate, the 2023 trouncing. So I went on stage and said, when nobody else, every other candidate's supposed to delicately tiptoe around the genteel norms of the RNC. And it's not like I surprised her with this, okay?
And this is the funny part, right? He challenged her. To me, you failed that many times. Let's say I was RNC chair. And I was fucking, I cursed. I was messing up. I'll be like, yo, I got to step down. Obviously, the strategies that I'm employing is not working. Someone else should take the spot. That's what an honorable person can do. But not this lady. This is what's her name? Mitt Romney's niece. Not her. She thinks she's entitled to the position. And merely criticizing her, you're not gonna get another cent over the Republican Party's donated money. Imagine that. This is the same way they view the RNC committee and the funds that gets donated to the Republican Party. It's the same way that politicians from both sides of the party view the government and taxpayer money. Oh, how dare you say that to me in my office? You mean the people's office? You mean the people's capital? You mean the people's house? You're mad that I'm telling you what to do in the people's house? We fund this. We pay this. You're a middleman. You're a representative. You're not our leader. But we think they're leaders. I don't know why. Mainstream media. This is why I say mainstream media is propaganda. It's not meant to tell you the truth. I have as much credibility as a person that went to journalism school. I honestly believe that. Because if I come up with my facts and I say, okay, disprove it for me, Mr. Credentialized journalist from Yale, Harvard, and journalism school, disprove this for me. Because at the end of the day, facts are demonstratable. Facts are reality. It's not an imagination. You can't imagine facts. You can't imagine evidence. You can't. You either have the proof or you don't. And a lot of journalists are running out with a narrative they don't have no proof to back it up. That's the reality. But I digress. Let's get back into it.
Okay. We actually, I haven't talked about this before. So we had a debate walkthrough. You kind of go through in the morning of. I'm not making this up. It's like, I wish there was no cameras allowed in there. We can catch this. She comes in. She's just like trying to give me a hug. I'm like, I'll give you a handshake. And I was just like, how are you doing? And she's like, how are you doing? I was like, not great. I mean, the election didn't go very well last night. She's not great given last night. And I'm not even kidding you. Here's what she says. What happened last night?
Oh my God.
No, I'm not kidding. So I thought she was joking. So I'm just like, yeah. She's like, no, but seriously, what happened last night? And then she got kind of combative about it.
Who's around when this is happening?
Oh, like people from NBC, other like staffers from the Republican
She came
Party.
to want to give you a hug. You said, I'll give you a handshake.
Yeah. So I'll give you a handshake.
Have you guys had any feud prior to this or no?
No, but I believe in, well, we have, not multiple actually. Because it's not personal. It's the failure of how she leads this party. I mean, number one, at the start of this race, I said release the debate stage criteria so you don't play games later. I believe that played a role. And she was just like, no, but they actually released it earlier than they did last time around because I believe I called on them to. So they released it at least earlier. So I gave credit where credit was due when they at least responded. First, she was like, no, we're not going to do it. We're staying radio silent. But I believe I had an impact on that, and I gave credit where credit was due. So that loop was closed. Then Fox calls me after the second debate and Chris Christie and say, hey, would you spar with Chris Christie or have a dialogue, open dialogue, since the second debate, I mean, the unspoken reality is that was useless. So I said I would do it. The night before, Ronna McDaniel calls me on my cell phone and says, you will be disqualified from the next debate if you participate in this discussion with Chris Christie.
Does that sound like someone who's supposed to be like a chairwoman of a committee for a Republican Party? Like, imagine an event that's going to give two of your candidates from your party more exposure, and you're doing something counter to that. Why? For what purpose? Right? And it shows you there's a lot of conflict of interest. And in there, you can't escape human nature, right? We sit here pretend that we're altruistic, that we want to do what's right for other people. But at the end of the day, she's being very selfish about this, very controlling about this, right? Like he said, it's not your money, it's the Republican Party's money, and you have no right to decide who gets it or not. It's for the party as a whole, and you're merely a representative, a conduit to distribute those funds where it's needed, so that way our agenda gets pushed forward. That's the purpose. That's the principle of why you're the RNC chair, and you're not fulfilling that. Instead, you're using it as a platform to enact an authoritarian, tyrant-like attitude towards someone who questions your authority. And you wonder why the Republican Party loses. See, I almost made a video, and I think I might make it this week. I don't know. It's about I was thinking about inconvenient truths about the Republican Party, and this is one of them. And this is inconvenient truth about politics as a whole, is that it's controlled by people who want nothing more than to, hey, I want to keep my money, I want tax cuts, but I don't care about the culture. I only care what benefits me. And I think we got into a bad habit, and this is an American thing. As Americans, we got into a bad habit of voting based on what's in it for me. This bribery type culture is what, like, this instant gratification. I want a benefit. I want a special treatment. I want this. I want that. Government, give it to me. Both sides fall for this. Conservatives and liberals, Democrats, progressives. We know progressives, they think the government is supposed to give them everything. But I think we fell into this trap where we expect the government to give us certain outcomes. We feel entitled to certain outcomes, and they take advantage of that. And I think that's what's going on in the RNC and the DNC. DNC, we already know they picked their candidates at this point. The Republican parties are trying to get to that point. But obviously, Viveks of the world, the Trumps of the world, we keep getting in the way. Conservatives are more rebellious because, end of the day, as a conservative, you believe in some type of principle that exists outside of what's just best for you, what's just convenient for you. And I think this is why the Republican Party has a hard time of doing what they do, what the Democrats do in their party. Democrats essentially can pick any candidate, and their voters will vote for them just because they have a D next to their name. The same is not true for the Republican Party. The Republican Party just can't put any same old Republican and expect everyone to show up for that voter. All you have to do is look at the election that happened this week on Tuesday. Perfect example of this. Trump are saying we're not going to show up because conservatives are more likely to suffer consequences based on their principles, not based on what's convenient for them and the party. Conservatives don't believe we worship a party. This is the problem. This is the problem the RNC has with the conservative voter. The Democrats don't have this problem with their voters. Their voters are likely to be less religious, right? They're Marxists, feminists. They all of them agree on one thing. They must have power. And it's easier for them to have power if the Democrats are in power. That's all. That's the only thing they agree on. That's why they can come together. This is why they're very uniform. This is why not one Democrat votes out of step with the party. This is why. Because they don't have any principles. The only principle they believe in is enacting power. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
I said, Rana, how does this advance the interests of the GOP? Like the GOP voter base. How is the GOP voter base better off if we hear less debate between the candidates? Explain that to me. She has no good explanation, but regardless, that raised some of my recent sparring with her in public. But this has nothing to do with me and her. What happened on the night before the debate was the Republican Party nationally got trounced. And everybody, if
destroyed.
you're
Kentucky,
totally destroyed. Everybody. Virginia, I mean, kind of Ohio, you just go, these are red states, okay? Oh, Kentucky and Ohio, certainly. And so I'm walking in, this is the morning after that trouncing. This is the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. She's coming, she's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I'll give you a handshake. She's like, how you doing? I said, not that well, given that last night didn't go very well. She said, what happened last night?
Like oblivious.
Is she saying it jokingly?
No, she's saying it almost angrily, right? Because I was like, the last night didn't go well. So like she's challenging me. She says, well, what happened last night?
Oh, okay.
Like, what happened last night? I don't know what happened last night. Tell me what happened last night. Yeah. And I'm just like, this is the person who's accountable for running the Republican Party. I said, who lost the election? She said, we have nothing to do with that.
Really?
I run the National Party. These are state races. We have nothing to do with that. So where's and then says and then starts to like.
It shows you that the RNC don't really care about state races. They only care about the national. But people donate to the Republican Party so they can help state races. So these candidates get more support in state races so they can win state races. This shows the lack of respect for local government. Everyone only cares about the federal. That's it. And we need to get the reverse thinking. We need to care more about our local than the federal government. I'll be more happy if voters say, I don't vote in national elections. I only vote in my local elections. It will be a better America if most Americans thought like this. That's just my thoughts. Let's get back into the video.
Escalate her voice and says, I refuse to fall on the sword for this one. I refuse to fall on the sword for this one. This is not my fault. And it's like, okay, clearly she's been criticized.
How many
all day
minutes
for
before
this.
you hit the stage is this happening?
Oh, this is like early. This is in the morning, right?
Okay,
like
it's
like
pre-game
lunchtime.
prep. Yeah,
you kind of go
I got you.
through.
Walk
They
through.
show you where you're going to be
Yep.
standing. Here's your microphone.
Yep.
So that's where this happens. So it's not like I surprised her on the stage.
Got it.
All right, she knew where I'm at on this.
She had already had a long morning with this topic.
Oh, of course, and should. I mean, 2018 loss, 2020 loss, 2022 no red wave, 2023 trouncing, total drubbing for the Republican Party. This is the individual who's the national chairwoman. She runs the entire Republican National Committee. Where's the accountability? So I get on stage and you're getting some standard, beaten dead old horse Donald Trump question. I said, forget that. Let's talk about what happened last night, because the last 2 elections he's been out, Republicans have gotten trounced for different reasons. So stop blaming the boogeyman.
Exactly. And this is another media propaganda that I'm exposing here. I hear a lot of people, a lot of talking heads, more corporate pundits always talking about, it's Donald Trump's fault we keep losing these elections. Look at all the people he elects. They lose. Okay, that could be the case, but what evidence you have of that? Races where Trump didn't have no endorsement. What's his name? Glenn Youngkin's is a prime example of this. Glenn Youngkin didn't get, I don't believe, he didn't get any endorsement. None of his candidates got endorsements. He lost his whole council. Why? Because he tried to push the abortion issue. The Republican media heads don't want to talk about how abortion, how Americans currently, right now, are not ready for banning abortion yet, right? Because they're making changes too quick, too radically. Change must happen in incremental steps. That's my argument. That's Trump's argument. And remember, mainstream media, this just shows you Trump is not a real conservative. No, he's just a practical one. He's just a pragmatic one. I thought Ben Shapiro would appreciate Trump being pragmatic about an issue. But when it comes to the issues that Ben cares about, he's very emotional. I'm just being honest. But hey, I don't fault a man for feeling strongly about his convictions and his principles. But that must be separate against the end. The end is you want a Republican to win. The country's not ready for abortion to be banned just yet. You have to make these changes incrementally. We already did a drastic change by eliminating it from federal law. That's a win. Now we have to build upon this. And it's up to people in the pro-life movement to create a culture that will allow a candidate to run on banning abortion. That's the long-term play. That's what I believe. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
There's an accountability problem within the Republican Party. And so I say on stage that Ronna McDaniel, if she wanted to come up on stage, and I meant it, if she did want to come up on stage, debate stage time is valuable, but I would still yield my time to her if she wants to use the microphone, look the American people in the eye, and say she resigns, which would be good for the Republican Party, and I believe she should resign. So what does she say? So then the press reports there's people apparently sitting in her row or behind her row in front of her, where she is, think about this, the neutral arbiter of the Republican National Committee later in the debate when I'm sparring with other candidates, booing when I'm speaking, clapping against other candidates when they're speaking against me. So
feels like high school, no? Political theater, right?
She was booing?
Yeah.
Who was booing?
She's booing me at other points in the debate. And I don't care about that, but think about your dereliction of duty. Yeah. You're supposedly the neutral arbiter of the entire National Republican Party hosting a debate. It's like a referee cheering in the middle of a game between two teams. It doesn't make sense. Like if the referee is like booing or hollering in favor of one team or the other, that's what that looks like if she's the arbiter. Then she's saying during the breaks, and this is as reported by the press, so I wasn't there, but it's apparently sources who are around her, reported by multiple sources in the press, saying that I would not get another cent from the RNC.
Yep.
So think about what that means. That means she believes that's her money. Right? These are donations she's collected from other people.
And journalists feel the same way. They believe it's their job to tell you how you should think about this thing. Right? What they say, your job as a parent is not to teach your kid what to think, but how to think. Journalists believe, and mainstream journalists specifically believes, they should show you how to think and what to think. And what information you get exposed to. It's all about control at the end of the day. But you think these people care about? No. Right? This is why they push it. I keep hammering this point. This is why the media is the most dangerous entity in the world. Because it controls perception. That's the hint. That's my condensed quote. That's my paraphrase quote of Malcolm X's quote about the media is the most dangerous entity in the world. It can make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. Because end of the day, media can control perception. And this is why it's a fight for attention. It's a fight for eyeballs. This is why this stuff scares them. They don't like it this way because it gives them less control. Decentralized information, decentralized sources. That is the future of information. That is the future of the internet. This is why everyone loves Bitcoin. You see it. I'm a millennial. You see it. Vivek gets a lot of the young conservatives on his corner. Why? Baby boomers conservatives should ask themselves, Gen X conservatives should ask themselves that question. Why does our young millennial conservatives who are going to be the future of our party resonates with this Indian guy so much? That's the question they should be asking if they're looking for the truth. But if they're looking to protect their own interests, if they're looking to protect status quo, they hate this. And that's the truth. I digress. Let's get back into the video.
But somebody said a mean thing about her, and it's not even a mean thing about her. Someone said that we need accountability in the Republican Party, that this person who has failed us 4 times in a row, that there needs to be some accountability. She says, if he says that about me, then this money that I have been a steward for, a fiduciary for, that I'm not going to give a cent to him because he said something that I didn't like about me.
Wow.
That's a conflict of interest. So,
and Americans, we have to get good at spotting that. Right? I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a liberal. I don't care if you like Vivek, you don't trust Vivek. All I'm saying is we have to look out for that. And if we see that in somebody, we need to get them out of there because they're not serving the common good of what? The citizens, the nation, the people, the party. That's what we need to be watchful for. Only a vigilant people can protect the republic. Benjamin Franklin already warned us. Let's heed his warning. I digress. Let's continue.
So then I get a question after the debate in the press room. I don't know who it came from, but I'm presuming it's from, one of the RNC aligned people, which is, how come you would go on Rana's stage, on her stage is what they said, on her stage and criticize her like that? My response is, that's not her stage, and that's the problem with this party. It doesn't belong to these corrupt establishment political creatures. It belongs to the voters and the people of this country, and that's where the Republican Party is badly mixed up.
Question for you.
And so no, dinner didn't go well.
But I assume you know her last name, her maiden name.
Romney.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think she embodies it.
This is why the founding fathers banned the ability to create a nobility class, because essentially these people, these political families that's known in politics, the Kennedys, the Romneys, the Bushes, the Clintons, the reason why the founding fathers didn't want aristocrats, nobility, is for the same reason that's going on right now. They assume that they have credibility, entitlement to positions of leadership and power because they're a part of the family. Oh, I'm not taking the fall for this. I'm not taking... Do you have the ability or not? We're a country founded on meritocracy. And the minute we start moving away from that is we move away from quality. And we get these people who are in over their heads. They're in positions that expose their incompetence. And that's what's happening with Ronna McDaniel. I don't know why I always struggle with that name, but I digress.
Let me ask a question. When she says you can't, go debate Christie, then how is she okay with DeSantis debating Newsom?
Because it's corruption, man.
You think that's what it is?
Absolutely, it's corrupt. Because the people who are propping up Ron DeSantis, like the super PAC money, all of that's doing up. And it's not criticizing Ron or not criticizing. It has nothing to do with it. It's just the system is. There's tens and tens of millions of dollars in a system where supposedly the max you can give to a campaign is $3,300. The people who have lobbied and gotten their special favors from, and it's not just Ron, it's the way politics works, that those people are the big donors to the Republican Party. And Ron is debating another candidate who's running for U.S. president, that is Gavin Newsom, and the man who's running for U.S. president, flying around doing... The funny thing about this is Gavin Newsom is not running for U.S. president in the same way that Ron DeSantis was not running for U.S. president, jaunting around on public money and private jets on matters that have nothing to do with the state. That's what Gavin Newsom is.
Exactly. Does that make logical sense? Like, come on. The mainstream media will keep telling you. Like, let's say if you watch a left-wing media and say, you conservatives are such conspiracy theory. You actually think Newsom is running for president? He often say he's not running for president. Okay. Why is a governor of a state that is losing people, is losing population for the first time in its history, why is he going out to meet a foreign national leader called Xi Jinping? Why is a governor from a state representing us in a talks or in a conversation with a leader of a country? Why is that? If he's not running for election, if he's not running for president, I don't know what he's doing then. Well, is he gonna be Biden's spokesperson? Oh, I speak for Biden, bruh. It's obviously he's positioning himself in the limelight. Why is he accepting a debate with a presidential candidate? get his more eyeballs, more national attention, bruh. You know them by their action, not their words. That's a statement that I live by. I think a lot of Americans should live by that too, because it's so obvious. All you have to do is look at the actions. Okay, what is the most likely reason he's doing this action? And you'll arrive to a sensible conclusion. But if you listen to mainstream media, they'll propagate you. They'll throw out propaganda. He's not running for president. AKA, hey, we don't want you to pay attention to him. Pay attention to these candidates. Pay attention to Biden. Right? This is why I'm coming around to Vivek's argument that Biden is not going to be the final guy at the November 2024 voting booth. But I digress. Let's continue.
Let's do it now. And as I said on the debate stage as well, to the Democratic Party, I call it Republicans, Democrats evenly. I call Democrats more. Be honest, Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee. So who's it going to be? Put up whichever other person it's going to be so we can have an honest debate. But Ron is able to have that full-on debate on the same network, Fox. But if they're calling me, I think what happened is at a certain point in the race, around late summer, initially they're saying, oh, yeah, young guy, okay, check the box. We got, a lot of boxes he checks for us. We get to say that this guy ran in the Republican Party, young guy, different generation, first generation, whatever. Okay, we check.
You notice that, and I like this when he's talking about how, they accepted him running for president because of a narrative, a story they can tell about him running for president running in the Republican Party. You see the narrative. This is what I'm talking about. To me, I'm using these points to kind of hone in on the point that the mainstream media wants to control your perception. And someone wants to control your perception regardless of if it's true or factually demonstrable, it's propaganda. And this is what they wanted to do. I'm calling media out on both sides, right? Because I'm not a fan of corporate media anymore. I use them as more of a middleman so I can get information, and then I give my conclusions, my interpretations, my thoughts on it. And I believe it's a more honest take than what they're presenting the information as you saw from the New York Post, who said that Vivek self-destructed on the stage tonight. But if you look at Twitter, 22 million views, 100 million views, people are talking about him. I'm talking about him. Every alternative media personality is talking about him. But mainstream media is like, oh no, he bombed. He did worse. Nikki Haley shined the best during the debates. What kind of they're smoking? I don't know. But I digress.
Check that box. Oh wait, he's not going away when he's supposed to. Right? The other no-name candidates, and I was initially a no-name candidate too. The other no-name candidates had no chance of making the first debate. They're all off. Nobody really paid attention to them. Wait, this guy's
Larry
sticking
Elder.
around, and then wait, he's saying some things that the establishment that has an allergic reaction to Trump. Wait, he sounds a little bit like that. No, this isn't supposed to happen again. No, stop it. Okay, it was cute while it lasted. Like, make it stop. That's sort of where they were. And so I think there has been a concerted effort amongst the donor establishment class that has convened private summits with the Haley campaign, the DeSantis, the Scott campaigns, Pence, and others, Christie. I'm the only person other than Trump that's not, invited to these closed-door forums. There's certain debates we want Ron DeSantis to get his airtime. You do it, we're going to disqualify you from the next debate. And then you get to the place where now, if you're critical of that party, she says, we're not going to use that she, because she doesn't like what I said, it's a personal conflict of interest, is going to say you don't get another cent from the RNC. So in a certain sense, they prove my point about the corruption.
Exactly.
To say that they view this as their money, to treat it in a way that they're going to pick whoever their favorite horses are.
Yeah, that's...
You don't silence a man because he's lying. You silence a man because you're scared of what's going to come out of his mouth. That's the true statement. And that's how they're treating Vivek. Remember the second debate, how they kept cutting him off? He couldn't get a word in. The media didn't report Nikki Haley was nasty for cutting off Vivek. Oh, the decorum on the stage was despicable last night. All they said was it was an ish show last night, but this person did good. Usually it's Haley, usually it's DeSantis, because DeSantis didn't participate. But for some reason, people still look at Nikki Haley favorably. Now in this debate, Vivek called her out, criticized her. Now mainstream media, oh, Vivek was sexist. He was so offensive. He was nasty. Well, but Nikki Haley wasn't nasty for cutting off Vivek while he's speaking, while he's trying to answer a question. That wasn't nasty. You see when you're part of the team, aka the donor class, the leadership class, the establishment, it takes they'll minimize your negatives and highlight your positives. When you're outside of the group, the establishment, the club, they'll highlight your negatives and minimizes your positives. And that's what's happening with Vivek right now. Let me know if I'm lying. Let's continue with the video.
That's very strange because the voter, I'm sitting there saying, and I even asked the governor, I said, why are you debating Newsom? I think a year ago made sense. I think right now makes no sense for the two of you guys to debate. But
exactly.
Rob, do you have the clip of Ronna McDaniel being confronted about what Vivek said and what her response is? And she said, I'm not the one running for president. Play this clip if you could.
There were allegations that were thrown on the stage by one of the candidates in particular, arguing that the Republican Party has a culture of policing. Specifically, Vivek Ramaswamy called for you to resign. Would you like to respond to that?
I'm going to focus on beating Joe Biden. I wish that's what all the candidates did. I'm not running for president. I'm very proud of the fact that under my...
But you're supposed to be a support. Like, she's just dodging criticism. But you know, I'm gonna let the video finish.
Tenure, we won back the House. We now are getting investigations into the Bidens.
The expectation, look, I know I'm Ram, but the expectation wasn't just to win the House. It was to win the House, the Senate by a certain amount of votes. You see how they spin it? That's what I'm saying. Look, hey, look. You can come to your own conclusions. I'm just showing you mine. Let's go back.
I also, as Michigan chair for the first time in 30 years, won a state that Democrats hadn't been in. I'm very proud of the fact that we're going to have staff in 15 states heading into 2024. But, you know, I'll leave other people to attack Republicans. I'm going to focus on Democrats. I will say this. We can't attack each other and win. We need all of us.
So actually,
you can pause it at this point.
I have a comment.
Go for it.
So before Vivek goes in on her, I have an argument as a conservative. Competition is good. Accountability is good. And competition and accountability is supposed to increase the quality of the group, right? I'm talking as a conservative. That means as a conservative, I believe it's my duty to call out the ineffective, the inefficient members of my society and demand more from them, demand excellence from them, meritocracy. Hey, you're not good at this job. I think you should stop doing that job. That's not me attacking. I'm criticizing. If I can validate my claims, if I can justify why I come to that conclusion, the rest of the group should hold you accountable. Say, hey, you need to step down. You're not as good at this position as you think you are. I think someone else can be better to fill your shoes. And that makes the group better. Competition increases the quality and the abilities of people who participate within the group. But if you have this culture where criticism is automatically deemed as attacking, how can you say that you want what's best for the party? If what's best for the party is Hermit Dillon is supposed to be the RNC chair and she can give a tangible result that the whole party benefits from, shouldn't she be in that position of power? But you're mad because you're getting criticized for your feelings. This is the problem. But you know, but this is the media. This is the game. You got to figure out what is narratives, because narratives is just an imagination. It's just a presentation. It's just an illustration. It's not the truth. Reality is the truth. Results are the truth. Facts are the truth. And if it's not the truth, it's evidence of the truth. But I digress. Let's continue.
Really funny. I hadn't seen this interview. I saw a different interview she did on Fox or Fox Business where literally, that was yesterday morning. She's going on air, national conservative audience, and literally just stated as a fact that Vivek voted for Obama.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
100%. I just confirm it for you. 100% false. Never voted for Obama in my life.
How do you know that Vivek's telling the truth? Can anyone in the chat tell me how you know Vivek's telling the truth? I'll continue the video.
So you have the chair of the RNC saying, I'm not going to criticize the Republicans, and then go on national TV, say one of the Republican presidential candidates who you were booing in the middle of the debate. Oh, you have that one?
It's 11 seconds. You can play the clip.
Oh, you guys
I texted it to you.
You guys already, yeah.
I'm looking footage of
maybe I saw it after you actually. So that was press reports of people who were sitting in her row commenting on the fact that she said that there's going to be not 1 cent to me from the RNC, fiduciary violation.
This money thing situation.
Here's a hint. It's provable that Vivek did not vote for Obama. How do you know? How do I know this? And how does Vivek know he can prove this? How can Vivek prove this? He got criticized for it before. Mike Pence specifically criticized Vivek. Clue? Oh, you weren't always a Republican. That's a clue. But I digress. Let's continue with the video.
There's not 1 cent. How does it actually get divvied up? Because you're the only candidate out there that has made their money as an entrepreneur. You don't need their money.
To tell you the truth, I have no idea how the hell all of this sausage making works because I've basically said screw the system. Now, what does that cost me? 8-figure sums of my wealth that we're putting into this campaign. 15, 16 plus million bucks already, putting in millions more. It's going to be tens of millions of dollars, certainly by the time we're done. We're going to stop at nothing. But that's the cost of saying screw you to a corrupt system that otherwise wants you to behave like their circus monkey, which I refuse to. But the point is, this is a person who's running the RNC, managing other people's money, and saying that because you said something I don't like, I'm not going to give you 1 cent, then goes on national TV and spews. I mean, it's just a straight up factual falsehood, right? Vivek voted for Obama. Is it false? Yes, it is. Is it damaging? Yes, it is. Is it done with malicious intent for the person who was booing it?
So, how does Ronna McDaniels know who Vivek voted for? Isn't that slander? But did you think the Fox News host fact-checked her there? No. And it's the same. Like, us conservatives, we criticize left-wing media for doing the exact same thing. When Jen Psaki is sitting with, I forgot who was it, Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton spewing misinformation, questionable assumptions. She don't fact-check her. She don't question her about that. Say, hey, is that really the case, Hillary? Really, Hillary? Really? Isn't that misinformation, Hillary? No, you don't see her fact-checking her. The same thing's going on in Fox News with people that is part of the establishment. And I'm coming around to what Vivek is saying, that, and I think I always thought like this. Like, I always knew that politicians have an innate conflict of interest. They want to stay in power, and they'll do anything to stay in power, aka present themselves the way that people want them to present themselves so they can gain power. All right. So I always knew there was always a conflict of interest, but it's kind of blurring the lines now in politics. Like, you say, hey, Democrats, Republicans. In reality, it's people who are in the club and people who are out of the club. And there's more people out of the club than in the club, aka the uniparty, right? People will say, oh, it's the uniparty, it's the uniparty. But I'm not a defeatist. I believe, hey, we should fight to change the system. We should create systems and institution where it makes it hard for people like the individuals that's currently running our party to ever gain power in the future again. I want to suffer so my children's generation don't have to suffer the same problems that we're dealing with today. Let my kids deal with a new problem, a different problem. Let me make sure I pass down a country that has less problems than how I found it. That's how I like to believe. So merely being, oh, I clean my hands of this system. You're just allowing it to exist. Choosing to do nothing is still a decision. But I digress. Let's get back into the video. Oh, he want to do this.
Me and saying those things? Yes, it was. Now, am I going to go after because I have better things to do in my life? Probably not, right? But this is corrupt stuff.
Well, in the first debate,
play this real quick because it's 11 seconds. Go ahead, Rob.
I know Vivek's kind of newer to the party. He voted for Obama, so he may not know that.
Look at her. She just flat out says I voted for Obama. It is a lie. I mean, look at this woman. Yeah. Bold-faced, getting up there, loses 4 elections for the Republican Party.
Get her.
Pathetically going up.
Cook her.
Literally just looking the American voters,
Let them cook.
Voters in the eye.
Let them cook.
And telling them a bold-faced lie. I mean, you just play that. I just want people to hit clip again because I don't want that I'm putting words in her mouth.
I know Vivek's kind of newer to the party. He voted for Obama, so he may not know that.
I mean, this is
last chance, guys. Last chance in the chat. No one knows how Vivek can prove that he never voted for Obama. She gave a hint too. She gave the hint. Oh, like, this is the first time in the Republican Party. Okay, I digress. Let's get into the video. I'm pretty sure she'll answer it. Not she, but Vivek will answer it.
This woman without a fact, with an iota of basis.
Is there a way to prove that so she loses?
Yeah, actually, there's a way to prove it.
Okay.
He has voting record,
the fact
right?
the voting record. So actually, I was so disillusioned, and I've talked about this. I voted Libertarian when I was young in my first election. Then I got so
here's the conclusion, right? She assumed just because he wasn't a registered Republican that made him by default a Democrat. Like the Libertarian Party doesn't exist. Like other political parties don't exist. You see how you see how narrow these people are? They don't live in real life. They think, oh, you're either with me or against me. Okay, so if you wasn't with us, then you're against us. Remember, Vivek used to be a libertarian. He was a registered libertarian, I believe. And now he recently became a Republican. But she assumed, oh yeah, you must have voted for Obama. Yeah, I don't know a lot of liberals. I mean, not liberals. I don't know a lot of libertarians that will vote for Obama. But I digress.
Disillusion from politics that it's actually public record that in both those, I don't like John McCain, and I didn't like Barack Obama, and I didn't like Mitt Romney, and I didn't like Barack Obama. So I actually didn't vote in those elections. I sat him out. I'm not particularly proud of that. I was in my 20s. I understand why many people are disillusioned from politics. I was disillusioned back then too. I voted for the Libertarian candidate back in 2004, and then I basically said, "Screw this. I have better things to do with my life. I'm going to be an entrepreneur."
So here's how I was able to prove it is because Mike Pence criticized Vivek for not being politically involved in the political process. Oh, you only voted in 2004. Oh, you never voted. Oh, you didn't vote. How can someone who's didn't vote, didn't participate in politics, now you want to come here and run for president? That was a criticism that Mike Pence launched at Vivek. And Vivek said, yeah, you're right. I didn't participate because I got disillusioned, which is consistent. But people will say, oh, he flip-flopped on his answers. No, you misinterpret what he said or airlifted quotes. Like just say you don't like the guy. You don't trust the guy. That's it. That's a fair criticism. Hey, I don't trust him. I don't like him. Hey, okay, that's good. But don't be trying to make assumptions based on things you can't really concretely prove. But I digress. Let's continue with the video.
I could care less about politics, but then came back around to it later. But literally, that is now public record, actual false lie.
Yep.
Flat, bold-faced lie to the American people, say they won't give money. And so that proves the corruption. So that's the Ronnie McDaniel corruption. But then I decided when I was on stage, okay, I'm wasting too much time on this stuffed suit of a bureaucrat running the RNC. Let's focus on the real problem, which is the equivalent, the Ronnie McDaniel of media. There's many of them. Kristen Welker, sitting right there from NBC News. And there's a connection between the two because who decides to put up the Kristen Welkers of the world to moderate a Republican debate? It's none other than the RNC, the failed establishment that Ronnie McDaniel has run that's lost its last 4 major cycles relative to what it was supposed to do.
So this is the uniparty, right? This is why people sometimes label the Republican Party as controlled opposition. And I can't fault people who think that way. Now, me, I'm trying to I believe in reform. Hey, I believe, hey, let's not quit. Let's change. Let's make it better than how we found it. That's what I believe. And I'll fight tooth and nail to get the outcome that I'm looking for. And whatever lane or means that I can find myself doing, right? I have more respect. I don't respect this defeatist attitude that is very popular in the conservative party, right? There's this assumption that conservatives are supposed to be pessimistic. I'm being honest with you. It's not in my nature to be pessimistic about things. I'm a very optimistic guy. It tends to be, that's why I don't know where I got it from. I think it's like nature. This is a nature speaking. It's just in my nature to look for the good, look for the positive, and use that to yo, we can make a change here. Even if it's a small step, it was one less small problem that someone else had to deal with. That's how I like to think, because that's how you make big changes, with small, consistent, incremental ones, right? But people only care about the big hits. Oh, we need to get the big hits. No, that's instant gratification. We need to look for delayed gratification, and that's what we need to focus on. Hey, we need to be disciplined. We need to make incremental change, one subscriber at a time, one view at a time, one like at a time. That's how I like to break down the problems, because it makes it more manageable, makes it more doable, it makes it more practical. Because these small steps will lead into a big outcome if done consistently enough and long enough. And that's the truth. That's the truth of success. This is how the left took over education. This is how the left took over journalism. They did it one person at a time, one website at a time, one position at a time. And then 30, 20 years later, boom, most journalists are left. Most college professors are left. They did it step by step, and it's going to take the same level of consistency and persistence to undo and zero out the bias that is in our institutions today. And that's the reality, and that's the truth. Let's continue with the video, and I think I'm going to wrap it up in 5 minutes. Let's go.
So it's almost proof sitting on that stage.
Vivek, back to
I don't
the
know if
money
people
question.
saw the rest of that. So that's why, it was almost, they're repeatedly proving my point based on the kind of debate they were hosting and the moderators they hired, to the things she's saying in the audience during the debate, to booing me during the debate, to now saying that false things on national television.
Who do you think would be a good RNC? Who would be a good RNC?
It's a good question. Yeah. So so let's you want to brainstorm this.
Kirk said you would be somebody like you would be very good.
So Kirk said I'm look, I'm in this to be the president of the United States. And I think that I can lead the country best from that position. But Charlie said that about me.
Yeah.
Well, I'll return the compliment to him. I think he could actually do a good job of it. I don't think it's crazy.
Charlie Kirk as RNC chair, like that would be crazy, but I think it's too early for him. Like you know these old heads, bro. Oh, old guards going to say we want someone with some experience. That's why I said Hermie Dillon was our best shot, and I think she's still our best shot. So she's on the bench right now, right? And Aristotle said this best, and I hope I don't butcher the quote too much, but Aristotle said it best that the worst thing an intelligent, I would say man, he said man at this quote, but I'm gonna paraphrase and said person. The worst thing an intelligent person could suffer through is being governed by someone less competent than themselves. And I think that's what I think that's the reality of the Republican Party, bro. It's like the people are telling you, yo, you're a representative. You're not our leader. Do this. Nah, we're going to do this anyway because it's the best interest of the people. And people are like, I'm done with this party. And this is what happens. But we got some principled people that are fighting. Matt Gaetz caused a whole hoopla. Almost got ostracized from his own party. Something that I always criticize lefties when they talking about, oh, we're the party of change. But you're not willing to suffer. You're not willing to make any sacrifices to actually get the changes you want. All you have to do is look at AOC. I don't like to say her. I forgot her name already. But AOC. All you have to do is look at AOC. Okay, you folded. You in line. Okay. You said, I need spending for the Green New Deal. You had she had the chance to do exactly what Matt Gaetz did. Did she do it? Nope. Because she's not principled. I'm just being honest. But I digress. Let's wrap up the video.
I don't think it's crazy, actually. I mean, he's from a different generation.
They would not let him do it.
I mean, that's almost a credential. So whoever they shouldn't let do it, that should be a requirement for whoever does do it to actually get put in that place. I mean, Hermie Dillon, very good. She ran against Ronna McDaniel. She's competent. She's a lawyer. She understands, and I think the lawyer thing helps because there's an element to running the elections in a way that's competitive, that you make sure it's actually run fairly for the Republicans to be able to compete. So Hermie Dillon has a good background. There's this guy, Scott Pressler, who's, I don't know if he's a Republican activist. He's nowhere on the radar of the Republican National Committee, but he's a guy I've gotten to know, talked to him from time to time, tried to be very helpful in some of the other elections that have played out in the last couple of years, but a grassroots activist that has actually focused on the way elections are run. So Scott Pressler, Hermie Dillon. I mean, these are all good people. I mean, I assume Charlie wasn't serious when he suggested me, but I would say in the similar spirit.
I think I saw somewhere him saying, by the way, did you have, there's a video of you talking to somebody. Were you talking to her or no? At the end of the debate, that's somebody else.
To my knowledge, I haven't talked to Ronna since after the debate. There's a lot of people piling in.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to leave it off there. You guys can watch the rest of this live stream. I'll leave all the links to all the videos that I referenced during this live stream in the description, as always. Timestamps will probably come Saturday morning when I wake up in the morning because I feel pretty tired today. But thanks for stopping by with me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys found this video insightful. I hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Live with Kenny. I hope to see you guys next week. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section. How you like the new format. I'm going to try to keep it more around this time. Like 1:30 is probably going to be my cutoff time. Let me know your feedback. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks again for tuning in. Jonathan Fields, Stephen Williams. I appreciate you guys in the chat. And I'll catch you guys on the next Live with Kenny. Peace.